It's 7:07, so I'd love to get going and kick off tonight's presentation. We've got a really great presentation from our Youth in Philanthropy Natick students, and I'm very excited for all the parents and students who are attending tonight. The students have put in several months of work to learn about philanthropy, to learn about the nonprofit organizations in MetroWest, and to come to a grant decisions as a group and to build consensus around 2 organizations who they're going to be recommending for funding. At the end of the presentation, we're going to have our panelists who are going to be members of our either board of trustees or our distribution committee to formally approve the grants so that the students can actually give real funding to 2 nonprofit organizations. My name is Matt Jose, and I'm a program officer at the Foundation for MetroWest. With me is my colleague, Marissa Lutz, who is handling all of the Zoom ends. And I'm also wanting to introduce our instructor for the YIP Natick program and the 2 instructor's assistants. So Karen Conway, Caitlin Graziano, and Caroline Sally. I will stop right now and give them all a chance to say hi and welcome as well.
Great, thank you. I am Karen Conway. I am the instructor. I'm going to actually turn it over to Caroline first because she is actually on the move, but wanted to make sure that she could be part of the program tonight. So she's going to start first. So if it's a little dark, she'll be speaking quickly, and then Caitlin, and then it'll just circle back to me before I introduce the class. So Caroline, with that, I'm handing it over to you. Oh, Caroline, you're muted.
Caroline, why don't you hop out of the meeting and try and come back?
All right, Caitlin, do you want to say a quick hello first?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Caitlin Graziano. I am a junior at Hopkinton High School, and I was a student in the YIP program last spring at YIP Sudbury. I loved the program. It was very enjoyable for me. I loved picking the nonprofits, and I'm really excited for the students to be able to present the nonprofits that they've picked. They've put in a lot of work, and I think that they picked 2 really good organizations. So thank you again.
Okay, great. And until Caroline comes back, I'll at least give a quick hello. So as I said, I am Karen Conway. This is my 4th year teaching this class and program. And each year it provides such a neat, unique experience to hear what each of the students have to say. I want to thank first and foremost Caroline and Caitlin for all they do. Having them as instructor assistants can provide such a great perspective and a true understanding of what it's like to be on the other side. So I, again, appreciate everything you do. And I want to thank the panelists too for showing up today and providing the opportunity for the students to showcase all that they've done. There's been a lot of hard work. The Natick program has a really interesting 8 towns represented. So I love watching the class grow. We've had the opportunity to be and meet in person until just recently. So it's truly been a hybrid experience in all sorts of ways. And so with that, without further ado, I'd love to hand it over to the Natick YIP Fall 2021 class to give their presentation.
Caroline did come back. Let's see if her mic is working. Caroline, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Well, let me sing her praises, Caroline Sally. Thank you very much for all you do.
All right, and so as we get the students on who will kick off the presentation, I'll just end with some thank you to Karen as well, who's been a steadfast leader to this YIP Natick group and has dealt with going back in person for the first time. We ran the Youth in Philanthropy program virtually 100% for the past 3 semesters, and they were the first class to come back in person safely, as obviously in our office in Natick. So thank you to Karen for leading leading us back into in-person programming. And so with that, I'll move on to the next slide and allow our students to kick off the presentation.
Hi, so I'm Lauren, and the next people speaking will be Lila and Martha. So today we are describing the process and what we did each class. Firstly, we were taught about what philanthropy means, how grants and nonprofits work, and how to evaluate them. The Youth in Philanthropy program has turned us all into more knowledgeable citizens of our community and has shown us ways that we can practice philanthropy by dedicating our time, talents, and treasures to others. We started off this program by getting to know each other so that we could better work as a group. Each class, our instructor and her assistants would prepare a lesson or activity so that all of the students could come together and learn to collaborate, as well as learning more about philanthropy in general. As the site visits neared, we learned about the key things that we should look when reading through the grant proposals and attending the site visits. This includes what an organization does, who they serve, and the project they want funded. Additionally, we also learned about how to choose a grant to fund and more about all of that in general. I'll pass it on to Martha.
Hi, my name is Martha Walker. I live in Holliston. During our time at Youth in Philanthropy, we were able to explore how nonprofits are run and got to do some of our own fundraising and decision making. To fundraise our contribution to the grant, myself and the rest of our fundraising committee worked together to plan an event that was hosted at Baja Mexican Restaurant in Natick. This event raised less than 50% of what we needed to meet our goal, but through it, I think we learned a lot about the fundraising process and how to work with small businesses in order to make a profit. Considering all the obstacles that we had to maneuver, the event went very smoothly. COVID guidelines obviously prevented us from hosting a lot of other in-person events such as bake sales, and being a regional group, like Karen had said, accumulated of students from 8 different towns made it hard for in-person events to be easily accessible for everyone. These reasons deterred us from making a second attempt at an in-person event and are why we chose to do an online fundraising platform that people could donate to just with the click of a button online. Through that platform, we were able to raise the rest of the money needed for the grant. In addition to that, Youth in Philanthropy taught us a lot about the decision-making process and gave us students a real opportunity to contribute to our community. We were in charge of the entire decision-making process. Of course, Karen and the other assistant instructors, Caitlin and Caroline, assisted us in getting our conversations started. But once we got rolling, we made very quick progress. This group was surprisingly all on a very similar page once we all started talking about the grants. And after our site visits, we all really liked at least one of the 2 top grants that we decided upon picking. And we were all really willing to support either causes. I think that having a group of open-minded individuals made a really big difference in coming to our final consensus. And as important as it was for us to all participate in that conversation, I think that open-mindedness was really made it very important and made it very easy for us all to listen to each other. I would say that everyone's opinion were very acknowledged in every conversation. And in the end, I don't think anyone left feeling unsatisfied when we came to our final decision. And now I'm going to pass it on to Lila so she can talk about the site visits we were able to virtually attend.
Hi, I'm Lila. So we received 4 different grant requests from organizations and had to choose 2 out of the 4. To help us decide which ones we wanted to donate to, we attended site visits for each of the organization. We prepared for these site visits by researching each one in smaller groups and agreed on questions to ask. After attending all these site visits, we again split up into different groups to talk through our thoughts. Within these groups, we decided on our top 2 organizations, and then we came together to talk more and eventually vote on 2 organizations we wanted to donate to.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move on to talking about the individual nonprofits. And so my colleague will move new students onto the screen who will be explaining the next portion of this presentation. And as she does this, I want to mention to all the guests who are here, feel free to ask questions in the chat. The students will be able to answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question and you want to make sure you get it asked, feel free to just toss it in the chat as we present.
Hi, my name is Antonio Sines, and I'm a sophomore at Dover Shipbury High School. And the first grant we evaluated was Dock Wayne Youth Services. This organization, mainly located in Framingham, but it did help other towns in a couple other different towns, like 3 or 4 different towns around the area. Its main focus was to help kids through sports with their mental health. And not only did it help their mental health, it helped other social problems, or not problems, some social struggles. And it did this in a way where it wasn't like a traditional therapy. It was more like doing it through sports and doing it with activities. And it was a really interesting way to help these kids. And it mainly focused kids around the ages of 5 through 18 in weekly sessions of activities. And for the pros and cons, I'm going to pass this on to Selena.
The pros of Dock Wayne was that it was very experienced and it was internationally divided. Everyone could access it, and there was a better approach on therapy for kids because some kids cannot pay attention as well. So it really catch their attention, but there were some cons that we listed here. It was too hard to understand what $5,000 will help them do. And during the grant evaluation, they told us that it would be used to hire employees, but as the whole class, we thought that $5,000 would not be enough to employ many employees.
Hi, my name is Lucy and I'm from Sudbury. And I'm here to talk about the Minding Your Mind organization and just walk you through the basics of it. The mission statement is to provide mental health education to adolescents, parents, teachers, and school administrators. They are located in Wellesley and many other surrounding towns. The goal is to address the stigma of mental health, especially in middle school and high school students, and encourage adults to provide better mental health support in schools. They primarily serve students grade 5th and above. The project they asked for funding was the MetroWest Youth Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Program, which uniquely educates the youth on mental health with young adult speakers sharing their personal experiences and stories. And now I'll pass it on to Katie to talk about why we did not select the program.
Hi, I'm Katie and I'm from Wellesley. Sorry, it's the next slide. Okay, thank you. We recognize that Minding Your Mind was very valuable and effective in providing mental health education, but we did not decide to select the program for funding, but we did love the presentation and how it's able to reach out to so many different kinds of people. Some of the reasons why we didn't select this organization is due to the fact that it's running in a deficit, and there was some questions about financials remaining unanswered, and it was unable to provide students in need with the proper resources. We kind of gravitated more towards other organizations that their mental health resources were kind of more personal and one-on-one instead of just listening to someone presenting. But yeah, we still loved it a lot. They came to my health class actually last week, and their presentation was so amazing and impactful. So yeah, there's no denying that they're an amazing organization. Great.
All right, the students who are presenting on MetroWest Mediation Services should be just getting on the screen now. Feel free to turn your camera off and unmute yourself. Turn your camera on, sorry.
So Marissa, I just want to make sure that it's Emma and Maya and Mateo are the three. I just got a text saying that Emma was not seeing the option to turn off her camera.
This slide came up. I think that's the next slide.
I have that I have Adrian and Ashkey next.
Yes, the children's room is Adrian and Akshay. Yep.
Let's do the children's room and then I'll go back one slide.
Okay. Hi, I'm Adrian Aguirre. I'm a junior at Natick High School, and I'm going to be doing the grant evaluation for the children's room. So their mission was to create a safe community for kids to grieve the loss of a parent, child, or friend. It serves from 3.5 to 18-year-olds, primarily in Acton, and 9 other towns are reached. And I wanted to take some time to talk about their pros and cons. Some of their pros are that they didn't take any payment from families that need support. They stated that all of their programming is offered free of charge to grieving families who have experienced the death of a parent or child, and they acknowledge the fact that death is often coupled with financial hardship. Each room is dedicated to a different age group. The children's room elaborated how the needs of each individual griever are acknowledged and honored. The whole house goes with the structure of nonprofit. It fits many people's needs, not just one group, with the goals of making people in grief feel less isolated, make new connections, developing coping and resilience skills, and increase their ability of self-care. During COVID, programming was offered virtually, and the reach was expanded to other states where it might have not been available for most kids. Some cons are that the COVID response wouldn't work well with their approach in nearby towns. It was unclear where the money was going. They explained how it is $5,000 per family to participate in their peer support groups. Therefore, a $5,000 grant from Foundation of MetroWest would allow one family to take part in their full range of support programming for a year at no cost. And that the grant was a bad representation of the nonprofit since they didn't really explain much. And now I'm going to pass it to Akshay.
Hello, my name is Akshay. I'm a sophomore at Holliston High School. So the children's room now serves almost 1,500 people annually through a variety of programming, with revenues increasing from $30,000 in 1993 to $1.2 million in 2020, making it the leading independent nonprofit child bereavement center in Massachusetts, meeting critical needs in communities through Eastern Massachusetts. So I thought the children's room was I selected the children's room over the other organizations because it was a very thorough and supportive way to help kids in grief. I think that anyone deserves to let their grief out over a loss, and anyone deserves the support for losing someone close to them. And that's it.
Emma, Maya, Mateo, you guys are all set to speak?
Yeah, sorry, it moved desktop, I moved screens when it changed. This is MetroWest Mediation, and their mission statement was to facilitate the resolution of disputes within communities, specifically within high school students. And mediation is MetroWest Mediation, they're the neutral middleman between the two parties, creating the best possible solution with the intention of preventing a case from going to trial by facilitating a conversation between students. They're located here in Natick, and they serve all of Middlesex County, but mainly Framingham and the surrounding towns. The program they're running is in the Middlesex Juvenile Court, aiming to provide a more effective way to resolve student conflict because of the rise in HPOs, which are harassment and prevention orders, and restraining orders between students. And those can end up on your permanent record, impacting your entire future. And this program allows for those students to not go to trial and to not have those on their record, but rather create a solution between the students that doesn't necessarily benefit one or the other, and creates an easier way for them to be around each other in school. And why we really like this was that it takes away the fact that a guidance counselor in school might be a little bit biased or take a side, but this is a very neutral party that will be able to help the students. And I will pass this on to Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya, and I'm with my brother Mateo, and we're both students at Natick High. So building off of Emma, what YIP's $5,000 grant would do for MetroWest Mediation Services is it would give them general operating support, which includes providing their 30-hour mediation training for their volunteer mediators, materials for clients, and general office needs.
I'm Mateo, and like Maya said, the mediators working with MetroWest Mediation are volunteers, meaning they are not receiving pay for their time. And these volunteer mediators consist of retired social workers, attorneys, educators, other human resource officers who look to help and/or continue helping people resolve conflict and maintain a clean record.
Hello, I am Isaac Wise. I'm a senior at Natick High, and I'll be doing this slide, and my partner Hallie will be doing the next slide. Why we chose to fund MetroWest Mediation. We chose this grant as it showed the clear signs of success in benefiting the youth of the MetroWest area. This grant was chosen over Doc Wayne in the Minding Your Mind because of its definitive benefits to the community in stopping kids from getting court records. MetroWest Mediation has a very thorough and clear grant request, which showed their plans to help the community. They also have an incredible success rate of 90%. They state clearly that they take great care in choosing who their mediators are, the feelings. It is important to keep in mind we develop a lot during our childhood, and without supervision, this can lead to children unintentionally giving themselves a permanent record. So with YIP's donation, we can help MetroWest Mediation make places where kids can discuss their discourse and stop their childhoods from badly impacting the rest of their lives. Our core values, our group shares many similar values, including those of the importance of mental health and community. And MetroWest Mediation helps MetroWest children in areas that can be severely impactful to their mental health.
Hi, I'm Hallie, and I'm a junior at Natick High School. And just brief on why we chose the children's room, we found it offered an effective, thorough support system to guide children through grief struggles. Minding Your Mind was the other nonprofit organization that generated high interest from the YIP class. However, we believe that the children's room offered a more long-term way to help its participants and was a cause more overlooked. And to just remind how children's room is structured, it offers financial support to families, is built to identify with one particular age group per room, and due to COVID-19 has moved to a virtual setting to accommodate as many struggling as possible. We found that this cause more than ever is crucial due to the pandemic, as many lives are being lost, and a program to help struggling children is a very needed organization. We also are very impressed with the clear amount of effort that went into planning each room, putting the smallest of details in, emphasizing their commitment to aiding the community and making it as accessible as possible. And then lastly, at the beginning of the year, when we were identifying what nonprofit causes we felt most passionate about, most in the class agreed medical and social organizations felt most important to them. And Children's Room has touched upon both these topics by helping minors cope in a safe and healthy way and environment with their mental health struggles, as they may be going through a lot of depression during this time.
Excellent. Thank you to all the students who presented your decision-making and recommending grant funding to MetroWest Mediation and the Children's Room, two excellent organizations that we're proud to have in the MetroWest area. I encourage parents and guardians who are watching today to look up both of those organizations, to see what they do, and to see how your students are getting involved with their organizations through this grant funding. I know that their site visits are very impactful when you talk to the executive directors about mediating between high schoolers, and then working on grief support for children who have lost a parent. They're emotional site visits, and they're very worthy causes that the students have recommended for tonight. So as I'm talking, my colleague Marissa will bring on the rest of the students back to the screen, as well as our three panelists, and we can do a panel discussion. So our panelists will be asking questions to the students based on their presentation today. And I encourage all the parents and guardians and donors who are out there who are watching to please feel free to submit questions in the chat as well. And we'll be able to ask the students those questions. So as the students are arriving, students feel free to turn your cameras off. And as our panelists arrive, I will introduce them, just their names, and then allow them to introduce themselves as well as they ask their questions. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes as the students arrive back on screen.
Matt, do students have an opportunity to turn their cameras on, or would you prefer that they keep them off?
No, as students arrive back on screen, feel free to turn your cameras on so that everybody can see that you're back on the screen, and then you'll be able to respond to the panelists' questions. So as they arrive, I'll just introduce who our panelists are. And again, thank you to the three of our panelists for attending today and for participating as panelists. So first, just going on my screen is Katherine Fagan, who is a member of our distribution committee. Second is Katherine Ponce, another member of our distribution committee. And then Elizabeth Gatilla, who's a member of our YIP Jr Board. And so she's an alum of the program who's now serving in a year-long program for alums to do more, more fundraising and more grant making and get more involved through the YIP program. So just in the order I introduce you, feel free to unmute, introduce yourself, and then feel free to ask questions to the students.
Hi, everybody. My name is Katherine Fagan. I live in Weston. I've got two little boys, and I've been a part of the Foundation for MetroWest for a couple of years. I have been volunteering on the distribution committee, specifically listening to arts and culture grants and presentations. So I've done some of the similar work that you guys have, going to site visits in person or lately virtually, reading through grants and whittling down which programs we think we can make the most impact and what that means. So I really liked hearing what you guys had to say today and hear about the different organizations you were researching. I guess I had a couple questions. One was how you picked four to start with. I don't know if those are given to you or if you get to select those. And then also I wanted to hear a little bit more about how you guys either prepared for the site visits or how they impacted your decisions and how you viewed them with the information. Because sometimes I felt like it was hard kind of read one thing and then you heard or saw something else and that kind of swayed you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I guess I can begin on the first question about the 4 grants. So we were given 4 grants to choose from, and then we had to choose 2 out of those 4. So yes.
Great.
As a group, we read through all 4 of the grants, and we like discussed the it was like depth and breadth is what Karen would say to us. So like look at it and like look at the financials and look at what they do as a group, as a foundation, and then go in and actually like go through every little thing, and then okay, do we agree with this? Do we like this? Do we not like this? And we would make we'd have one person like make a list based on like a group discussion of okay, pros and cons, mission statement, what's the impact, and all of these like points that we had to know to take into consideration. And then after we did all 4, then we had a whole group discussion to decide, okay, and then we went into, no, that was the site visits first, sorry, back up a step. But the site visits, we all came in and we had questions and notes that we broke into groups for, and we came up with questions that we wanted to know, and then we went into the site visits with those questions.
Did anyone do the virtual tour of the children's room? Yes, no.
Yeah, we were able to do the virtual tour of the children's room. They basically just walked us through their like facility. It's just a house, and they showed us through all of their therapy rooms for different age groups. And I think that really kind of like actually seeing their space kind of really opened our eyes to the importance of like the grieving process and how subjective it is for each person. And so yeah, I think having that virtual like walkthrough of the house was definitely like a turning point for us to kind of switch our view on the children's room and end up choosing that one.
Did you guys have any disagreements on which places that you wanted to spend or decide to donate money to? Did anyone feel strongly about something that didn't get picked?
Actually, we didn't really like fight about it that much. We actually unanimously picked like the same 2 organizations. We all thought that those organizations were the best. Not that the other ones were not, but we all thought the same thing.
I know originally everyone wanted mediation services, and then we had a small kind of debate between Minding Your Mind and Children's Room, but we ultimately all unanimously agreed on Children's Room. So we all did agree in the end, but there was some debate between them as we were going through them, as there obviously would be because they're all such great programs.
Yeah, it was definitely we were very close to picking Minding Your Mind. However, we realized that due to the fact it simply only provided a presentation service, so they would go to schools and they'd present about mental health, and it didn't provide anything further. So if you came to them with issues about your mental health, they would simply just hand you over to your guidance counselor, which is a service that the school already provides. We decided it was best to go with mediations services and children's room, as they had actual like physical impacts on our community that couldn't be done by really anyone else except them.
I want to let Katherine also jump in with any questions. So thank you all, and I'll keep listening.
Hi all, my name is Katherine Ponce. I'm in Waltham. This is my first year with the MetroWest Foundation. We learned about them all though with the partnership project I was doing on Youth Philanthropy too. So I really love what you all did and listened to you all tonight, and you're doing a really good job. I have just one question. I am curious, what surprised you about this process? What did you not expect going into it? And then coming out the other end, it's like a lesson you've learned.
Well, I would say that I'm not sure exactly what I was expecting, but it wasn't exactly what happens with the Youth in Philanthropy program. So before this, I had never done anything like it. So it was just really nice to be able to experience this for the first time and being able to get together with people from other towns and be able to collaborate.
I really expected something different because initially, before I did the YIP program, I thought philanthropy was something different because from what I learned from the media, it was like mostly talking about like money making, and it didn't really focus on the part of where you have to talk with like group members and negotiate and choose which grant you actually want to give the money to, and didn't really talk about the written process of it. Instead, really just talked about the money process. So after I did the YIP program, I really learned how philanthropy actually works instead of just learning it from media.
I would say not necessarily a challenge. I'd call it more of a gift that our group had. We originally came in the first week of YIP, I remember, and we did a few activities trying to learn each other's names, learn just general things about each other's, like if we had pets, if we had siblings, where we lived, all sorts of stuff like that. So I think the first barrier we all really overcame as a group was getting to know each other. Once we got to know each other, we were able to collaborate minds and see what we envision going the same way, how we envision things going a different way. And we were able to mend into friendships, I'd say. I would call some of these people my friends, and I'll be sad without them in the future, but this was a great experience as a whole. And I think I speak for us all when I say that we were blessed to go through this and endure this experience. It was really eye-opening. Like Selena said, I had the same idea of youth in philanthropy as a whole as something else, but philanthropy is kind of just being tightly knit with the people around you, working together and getting things done. And we experienced that with this class. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Going off of what Nathan was talking about with us all just like I'd say we all got to be pretty close friends. I think it was just really pleasant to have a chance. I think my favorite part of the program was the fact we got to have such great, like, healthy discussion. Like, none of the discussions we had were like two people like stuck on their one side. Like, everyone was at least willing to change their mind and were open to like all points of view, which I think is just such an incredible thing to have.
I think that's something that a lot of us either learned or came in with, is that like really open mind concept, to be able to listen to somebody else's opinion and somebody else's ideals and take that in and then change your own based on it. And I think that's what made it really, just based on all of the discussions that we had, made it really easy for us to come to like a super unanimous decision in the end.
Thank you for so much of you jumping in for that. I do want to pass it to the last panelist though, so that if you have any questions, and to introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Elizabeth Gatilla. I'm a senior at Needham High School, and I've actually been involved with YIP since middle school, and I did the Natick program, so it's nice to see the Natick people in fall 2019, and Karen was my instructor, and that was a great experience. And we actually funded MetroWest mediation services, so that was really nice to see that you guys decided to fund them. We just had such a great experience with the they came to us for the site visit and did a mock mediation trial, and that was really eye-opening for us. So I did want to hear about your experience with the site visit for them. So yeah, I want to hear what you guys have to say about that and what your impressions were from it, because it seemed like a unanimous decision.
Oh, go ahead, Maya. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that with MetroWest mediation, when I want to say they were our first virtual site visit. I might be getting that wrong though. But what we did in our site visit, which I think is what really like all pushed us towards that nonprofit, was they showed us like workshops they would go through with their volunteer mediators. And we did a few of those activities. And I think we kind of really got to understand like what mediation really entails through those. And I think that we collectively as a group came to understand the importance of it through the activities that they did with us. So that was definitely really important. And overall, the two people running the site visits were very personable, and they were really good working with us. So yeah, it was a good experience.
For the other organization that we chose, the Children's Room, the site visit is what changed a lot of our opinions. So originally, before we went to the site visit and we only read the packets of information, it was one of the organizations that we probably weren't planning on donating to just because of the information given and because it wasn't very specific. However, when we went to the site visit, unlike the other organizations, they actually showed us a tour of their house and like different things that they do and stuff like that. And that really inspired us to choose them in the end.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And I just need to give a quick shout out to the YIP Jr Board. I encourage you guys all to join now that you're done with your normal YIP class journey. It's a really great thing and I love being part of it. So yeah.
Awesome. I didn't even have to give the pitch. It's straight from Elizabeth. We've got a couple more minutes if Katherine wants to circle back with any other questions that came up.
One of the questions I had reading through the mediation services proposal is that they had mentioned that they train other mediation centers. I was wondering if that's something that they do for free, or is that something that they make money on?
So to my knowledge, they do a paid lesson in which they basically train you to become a Massachusetts certified mediator. So I do believe it is paid. They have the information on their website about where you can take courses.
It sounded like they train other mediation centers, so not just people to come in and help be mediators, but other centers to do the same thing. Is that true,
Yeah.
or am I reading that wrong?
Yes. So they sorry, Emma.
They have like a training service, so you can sign up and you pay for the program, like a teaching program, and you go in and you learn the rules of mediation and what you as a mediator are required to do and how to facilitate that conversation. And it's just you become certified to be a mediator, and those mediators that they certify can volunteer to do the program, or they can go mediate somewhere else.
Okay, great. So that's another source of revenue for them then.
Yes.
Awesome. Great.
I have a question about the areas of interest, y'all. And one of the last slides mentioning like just what was really important to you going into this. I'm just curious from the drivers of why you defined those as important areas to influence.
So at the beginning of the program, we did this group project in which we did our heart scores. So this was like a printout in our binders that was basically like areas of like community issues that you cared most about. So it had stuff on environmentals, like, if the water's polluted, it had stuff on art and music, it had education, it had social, it had mental. So we all sort of ended up it was an interesting way to like gauge everyone's areas of interest and concern in the community. And that's sort of where we got the whole core values of the group, including like mental health and just social well-being.
I also think right now, social progression is definitely being pushed a lot. And I think we can all now see like glaring holes of where we really need to improve in our community on certain social challenges. So I think that was another driving factor behind our area of interest regarding social programs, just to help really further along that cause that we're trying to do in our communities. So I think that was, again, just a driving force behind that.
All right, so we've got a few more minutes. Karen, if you want to ask anything, let me know right before we do the panel approval vote. So I'll just give you a minute if you wanted to ask anything as well.
No, I didn't have anything to ask. I could share, which I found very interesting in the years as we've gone through. I do believe that the pandemic has shed light, as was expressed earlier, and that Hallie was talking to, as well as the rest of the class, that the organizations that need help and the areas and pockets where services could be provided and give support in grief and in mental health, different areas such as that. I found that that became a theme that I could hear. And when we did our shuffle, our service shuffle, which is a physical representation of where you would rank in a 1 through 11 score, different issue areas, and the class moved around to the different points. Literally, it was like migrating herds. It was a really neat visual depiction of where the class had their interests aligned with. So great job to the group. I really appreciate all the time that you took to get there and share. It can be vulnerable putting your stuff out there, and you guys did it, and we're really careful with each other. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, officially, Katherine, and Elizabeth, as representatives of the Foundation for MetroWest, do you approve the grant recommendations from YIP Natick to MetroWest Mediation Services and the Children Room? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank you to the YIP Natick students for 2 great recommendations. On January 27th, we're going to be celebrating as an entire YIP program, so YIP Hopkinton, Sudbury, and Natick, to present virtual checks to the nonprofit organizations. So save the date for that. We'll be sending out a Zoom link to all the families and guardians and to the students, and obviously to the nonprofit leaders as well. So that will be a great way to end our semester, where the students will be able to see the nonprofit leaders again after the site visits, and then accept a virtual check. YIP is not over. Like I said, we do have graduation. You'll have one more class in between that, where you can learn about your philanthropic roadmap and how you're going to use what you've learned over the past few months in your life going forward. And then Elizabeth already made the case for joining the junior board after you finish your program. So junior board applications usually come out at the end of the spring, and it's a term that runs September through April. So looking forward to seeing any YIP alumni is eligible to apply for that. And then there's instructor assistance roles as well. So I think we had a couple at the beginning of this program. And I know we typically run 10 or 11 different programs throughout the year in the fall and the spring semester. So if you're interested in doing more with YIP and you want to be an instructor's assistant, don't hesitate to reach out. That's the end of our program tonight. Again, thanks to the YIP students, thanks to Karen, thanks to Caroline and Caitlin, the instructor's assistants, Marissa for all the Zoom help on the back, Simon obviously for his work interpreting tonight, and to our panelists, Katherine, and Elizabeth. Thank you all. I look forward to seeing you all on the 27th at our YIP graduation.